One does not have to have a crystal ball to know that when you give fundamentalists or any religious group a free hand, people start to burn at the stake and they're hung and stoned. There is evidence of this in the tribes of Abraham in Judaism, as Christ took the stone from the crowd. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Now, it really disturbed me reading a poll about, how many Christians support torture. And yet, you are very much opposed to sorcery and magic. Well, the Founding Fathers knew all of this because they had the specter, the shadow hanging over them of Puritans that hung people in a land grab. The Founding Fathers were a very magical lot. 16% or so that signed the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons. Probably about 40% of Washington's generals, including Lafayette and Baron von Steuben, yes, Freemasons. Freemasons knew that if they stuck out as being different, they would be persecuted. And it came to pass because in the 1800s, they were pointed out by people, and they were vilified, and falsely vilified. When you think about what George Washington did, it was pure magic. The magic of probably some of the things that came from his Masonic meetings, the symbology, the allegory, like Jesus using the parables to illustrate a point or a lesson. The magic of Lafayette, Baron von Steuben coming here, the German and the French. Isn't it interesting that the Bush administration vilified the German and French people? Yes, they didn't support the war because they were exercising their free will not to. And this nonsense with freedom fries. Do you know how much that cost the American taxpayer when Congress took that onto the floor? Ridiculous. You look back at people like Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry, they weren't Freemasons, but what they did was pure magic. It was the magic of intellect. It was the magic of speaking the right incantation, give me liberty or give me death. Yes, these men were flawed. You look at Benjamin Franklin, who probably went a little bit beyond Freemasonry in his life with the Hellfire Club in Europe. And, those of us who remember being young, remember that badass phase that we went through, so you call it the Hellfire Club. It kind of mocks the convention of the day. The Founding Fathers gave us the freedom of speech. It gave people the freedom to feel superior to other people when they're not, and articulate that. But in calling this a Christian nation, that is a hyphenation that I will never accept. The Founding Fathers believed in a separation of state and religion for a reason. They had watched historically what had happened, the magic of the empowerment of knowledge, the enchantment of heart to rise against tyranny. These are very magical things, and this was an amazingly small group of people. No, they weren't all Freemasons, but it's interesting, probably close to half of the Supreme Court justices, like John Marshall, were Freemasons, although he became disenchanted with them toward the end. You look at all the magical things that happened, this German baron coming to this country, to raise an army, to help Washington organize and raise an army, to train them and instill discipline in them. The magic of discipline. It's easy to turn around and criticize people for their ways or for the things that are sacred to them, and this is absolutely wrong. You know, these superior religious types need to thank their lucky stars for the founding fathers and for the magicians among them who helped to bring this nation into being. I am a proud American, and I am a proud magician. I am proud of my paganism. I am proud of a lot of things, and there are things I'm not so proud of in this life. You know, I think that if we used our hearts a little more, instead of our heads so much in some decisions, we might make the world a more magical place. And remembering that so many Christians favor torture, think about your Lord being crucified, hung up like a piece of meat. That was extreme torture. But those of us who've never been through waterboarding don't understand, but I've done enough swimming in my life to know that drowning is a very bad thing. You know, magicians like Benjamin Franklin, and I saved him for the last. Oh, he was absolutely scandalous. You know, his son was a Tory and he disowned him, and this was the son that had been with him in the kite experiment. What a magical mind to create the glass harmonica. That was his favorite invention. But he did many other things. He used the magic of wit. He used it to educate people. Early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Well, it sounds to me like a wealthy man trying to get the poor guy to work for him, but, you know, it was Ben Franklin, so we gotta be cool about that. But people do need to understand that magic has played a part in the founding of this country, and magicians should not be discriminated against or persecuted, and in that category I certainly put Freemasons, I put pagans, you know, I put other people who are spiritualists. And speaking of which, with John Adams, he was a deeply religious man, very Christian, very much loved his family, and yet he managed to pull off some magical things in his life. Think about how you define magic as opposed to sorcery. You know, I happen to practice both, and I know that that upsets some people. Well, I'm just going to say, as an American, the magic of the founding fathers gave me the right to say, I can do my own thing, as long as I exercise my freedom with responsibility. This is Joost Lundberg, the Fairy King, speaking on the magic of the founding fathers, and I say at the end of all of my videos, thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful life. Bye now.